All right. Kelvin
Right.
Sholar, you are here with myself, Ryan David Dwyer, and today we're going to be talking about the meaning of life as it relates to music. So, wow. And just in case none of the viewers have ever heard Kevin Sholar, I wanted to give just a little bit of a introduction about how you and I first came across. And as I recall it, it was through the VIP Piano Club experiment that my friend Jason Napier reached out to you and found you. And we were attempting to build a network of pianists that were really into the idea of doing live shows and to ticket the live shows. And you, man, you took a big risk, and you spent a lot of time interacting with us. And I even recall you played music for us, and that was just really special. So,
I still have the video. Yeah, we did a live
wow.
broadcast from Berlin.
But I've got to admit though, I feel very humbled because when I recently visited your website, your the list of people you've run across and everybody that you know is just so big that I honestly don't know where to start. And I think that it might be appropriate just to sort of start fresh with everybody since I think they're going to have a lot of surprises today. We're going to be discussing how you met a very important historical figure that literally shaped the history of the world. And that is just going to be so amazing. And I'm just going to try to be silent during that whole time because I want to just soak up everything you've got to say on that. But Kelvin Sholar, you are a amazing composer that has piano as your main instrument, but you've also dabbled in other instruments. But before we get into that, maybe you could tell everybody a little bit about your family background and how your family introduced you or influenced you musically, and then maybe how you influenced them.
Okay. My family background, I'm a fourth generation musician. What that means is my parents, and their parents were musicians. And so I came up in an environment where I heard music all the time. Sacred music. My father's is a Baptist minister, and my mother's a minister of music. So they are very much involved in the Christian church. So I grew up in that environment where on Sundays we went for like Sunday school, and then the church meetings in the evening. Then we came home at 8. Then we went back in to the church in the afternoon. And yeah, it was we were very involved in it. So that music really permeated my being as a kid. I remember going to a place in Detroit on the corner of Elmwood and Ark that we used to call Elmwood and Ark, where they had every weekend meetings of bands, and they would get together and put on a show. And man, to be a 5 year old kid sitting in the front row to watch my mom's band, my dad's band, my granddad's band, my grandmom's band, and every other band that they knew. Really, even to look back on that today, that was an extraordinary time, and it put music in a place in my life to where it's something you take for granted. It becomes a wallpaper or a background. You don't look at it as something special or something out of the ordinary. It is just like having dinner with your family. It's just like having a family conversation at the table when you're eating, and that's how it was. So that's the sacred side. But then on the secular side, when my parents would give me and my brother off to my aunts and uncles to watch, they go off and do their thing, and my aunts and uncles were teenagers, so they be putting on Detroit music at night. So I heard the electrifying mojo. I heard Kraftwerk from Germany. I heard the beginnings of electro music. I heard the endings of disco. I heard the beginning of rap music. all that at nighttime when when I'm supposed to be asleep, they're downstairs having a house party. And that music really, going to sleep to that kind of music, I remember there were moments when I would kind of wake up, and because of the music, which is so different and futuristic sounding, you wake up and you're not sure if you're still dreaming or what.
Incredible.
And that is something special about music. It has a way to put you in a space or a situation where you can exist, but you exist in an alternate form. When you sit in church and you close your eyes and you listen, and they're making music with the belief
Mhm.
that the spiritual belief mixed in the music, something magical happens. It takes you to another, it transports you to another place, and you realize that music is a language from beyond what we can understand. And then on the secular side, when you listen to those singers and musicians sing about love, loss, happiness, and they believe it, these are autobiographical songs, you hear something in the way that they sing, the same as in church. When there's belief in there, when somebody sings from their life experience, it makes the music three-dimensional. And something happens in the sound that takes you away from whatever images that you might have. So in
Mhm.
one way, I'm really lucky and happy that I came in the generation right before MTV videos, because all the music that we heard, we had to make the soundtrack to. Of course, they had like Soul Train and those things where they had, and then they did have music videos in the day, but MTV was the first channel to introduce channels strictly for music videos, and that's the first time I saw the images that the artist wanted you to see about the music. Before that, I was so lucky to build my own musical world, and that stuck
Mhm.
with me through from that up until now. I think that's one thing that I really appreciate is having a musical imagination that is not dictated by the message of the words or even the artist that may have recorded music. It has something more to do with the feeling, how they feel about the songs, and if they get that feeling across to me as the listener,
Mhm.
even in other language where I don't understand the
Mhm.
language, if I feel that the person is, it touches their heart. I tell you, I was listening to a song for years from Afro Portuguese song, and I loved it. It was playing on concerts and everything. And then I met the guy who gave me the CD, and he told me
Mhm.
the story behind the song. And the story was his country was being invaded, and he had to leave in the middle of the night, and he snuck out of the house and left his wife and his kids there.
Mhm.
And he escaped, but he escaped watching the guys come into the village and destroying, and he left his loved ones behind. So his song was a song of pain and hurt, like what happened to my family. I wish I wasn't a coward. I wish I didn't leave. And when he told me that was the message of the story, I broke down crying.
Mhm.
And I was so devastated because I felt so much emotion in what he was saying, and I never understood the words he was saying. But then when I understood the
Mhm.
words, it floored me. And so it just taught me I'm an emotional listener. I'm an emotional player and I'm an emotional listener.
Mhm.
I have to feel something in the music to perform my best, and I have to feel like it
Mhm.
means something from the performer in order to receive it the best way. That's something I
And
learned from my parents.
let me ask, what age were you when you came across that Afro Portuguese writer?
There I was easily 21, 22.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, 21, 22, 23. In that's when I discovered the emotion in music, actually, in those years.
Mhm.
When I was, I mean that in a different way when I was little. When I was little, I didn't consider myself a musician. I just enjoyed music and I did it, but I didn't think about it being a professional, anything special. When I got in my late teens, I started thinking about the profession of music. And I spent a lot of time studying and trying to get good technique. But I had a couple of experiences that taught me that I knew nothing about music because I wasn't connecting to it on an emotional level. I wasn't using it to reach people or to be reached by musicians. And my first tour in Japan, I met a beautiful young Japanese woman, and I couldn't speak to her in English. So when she came to my concerts, I tried to play to her. And that opened my eyes that music is the vehicle through which you place yourself and you communicate it to another being. And when I started to see it from that angle, I truly became a professional musician, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, before you were on the receiving end of the emotion, but that was, when the tides turned and now you were the giver of the emotion.
Absolutely
Um,
correct. Absolutely
but
correct.
but I do want to focus in on when you were younger at 5 years old, because you had been soaking up many different styles of music. And I believe it was your aunt and uncle that you mentioned when you were upstairs, they would play music downstairs. And I'm really intrigued to dive into that, because I'm wondering, did you find yourself like, were you like dancing to everything privately, and you just kind of were in your own realm? Or how did you feel like that you were reacting to that? How did you soak it up?
I was
Yeah.
excited because everybody would come to our house when we had a house party. My parents were young. My parents are my mother is only 16 years older than I. My
Mhm.
dad only 18 years, so they were children. They were kids. So when we were little, they were still having house parties. So the amazing thing with everybody would come to our house, and as a kid, you're like, I'm seeing all these people. That's exciting. Cousins, aunts, uncles, friends of the family, all the kids and everything, and adults. And then they start playing that
Mhm.
music, and everybody started feeling good. And just that feeling, you don't want it to end. And I remember one party in particular, my aunt took me upstairs. My parents were downstairs. My aunt took me upstairs and said, okay, so now it's time to go to sleep. And I was so wired, like, oh, the music, the people. And she said, okay, let's do an experiment. We're going to pray together. And she taught me the Lord's Prayer that day.
Mhm.
And I never forgot it. From that day, I was 4 or 5 up until today. She said it. She said we're going to do this every time before we go to sleep, and that was the beginning of me doing my little prayer. And I did the prayer, and I waited for her to leave, and then I sat there in my bed trying to go to sleep and not going to sleep, and then sitting in the dark, letting my mind go with the music. And that is an enlightening experience because when you're a kid, you probably fall asleep in your room shortly after 8 o'clock. You wash your face, brush your teeth, and you get in bed and you doze off. But I was so wired that I didn't go to sleep, so I stayed there, let my mind travel. This traveling in the dark with your mind through the sounds, yeah, that is.
Yeah, because I would imagine that since it was just surrounding you at all times, that you definitely were teleported somewhere.
It,
And
yes,
I think we first got in touch near 2011. And
right.
around that time period, you were writing a series of songs. One was called Orange, and you were doing kind of a trance-like music where you were repeating patterns, and then layering that into other dimensions with the electronic music. And it strikes me now that maybe some of the inspiration actually is from that 5-year-old time period, uh, in the dark.
A lot of it
so
is.
but
Like
but there's
most of
so
the
much
videos you see,
evolution to your
most
career
of it
that.
you see me closing my eyes to get back in that space. Most of the times when you watch videos, not even of myself but other musicians, we have to shut off the senses that distracts you from getting in that space. So like your ears are open, you got to close your eyes because your eyes will present things to you, present a choice to either follow what you're seeing or follow what you're hearing. So you learn to close all of the senses in order to make that one the strongest. Kind of like a blind person. You limit anything that just distracts from the message. So yeah, you're absolutely right, and I never noticed that before. In those early years of being there in the dark, listening to music and flipping out, traveling with it, that 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 is what I'm looking for every time, and that's where I'm trying to go when I'm making it. So that's an excellent observation.
Yeah, and actually, I do pick up a very signature sound from that time period. There's some intricate things you do, maybe on the jazz end, jazz improvisation creativity, at least from that time frame when I was hearing you go into the trance music, which I mean I categorize it as trance. You probably give it a totally special style, but I definitely felt transported. I mean, you can feel the teleportation, but you can also feel the original signature sound, which a lot of composers don't have. I mean, they can do it, right? But everybody has a different inspiration that allows them to uncork and to allow the flow to go through. But I just wanted to sort of slip in a compliment uh, because it doesn't matter how much you've learned, like academically, it's not the exact same thing as being able to be in the zone. And
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
so I just think that everybody listening today needs to go and check out your music, because they will get a source of inspiration that if they feel like that they're not quite creative yet, maybe when they close their eyes and listen in the darkness, they're going to start feeling a teleportation that will um, allow them to start doing some new things. So I
That's
hope I hope I hope they take the time to do that.
That's an excellent point of view and an excellent suggestion. Um, removing music from its messages and its images is an important part of the process of realizing what it really is. Music is not here to serve us, and it's definitely not here to be a medium for our petty messages about sex and drugs, politics, or whatever else. Even enlightenment and war and death, it's even beyond all those petty messages. We use it and we debase it by putting things in it and on it. But what we are called to do is actually understand what it truly is, independent of how we use it. It's not a tool. It's a way of life. It's not a thing that we use to get something. It's a way of being that we benefit from. And in order to really appreciate it and get to it, we have to remove ourselves from the images that we put in it and that we get from it. Which is why a lot of times I prefer instrumental music to vocal music, because vocalists tell me what I must see, and sometimes I get tired of "Ooh Baby." Sometimes I get tired of "Let's have the party." Sometimes I get tired of all the messages, and the music is enough to speak by itself. I don't need the message. Even songs that are necessarily sad. You know, when Eric Clapton made that song about his son, when his son jumped out the window, um, I'm sure that every time he got a check for that, he um, he didn't look at the number on that check, and that made him happy, more happy than the memory of that child that jumped out the window that he lost. I'm
Mm.
sure the numbers on that check. I'm sure all the fans, all the signatures he had to give, all that. I'm sure he would trade that to have the source of the emotion and the feeling back, the child that he lost. You know.
YouTube just posted a brand new song by Eric Clapton, and it wasn't in a style that I enjoyed, but
Hmm.
the rich content of his lyrics was shining through. Very amazing. And so yeah, shout out to Eric Clapton.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So what I would like to do, since you already really zeroed in on the connection between life and music, that it is one and the same. And what I would like to sort of get to is that later we're going to bring up Stevie Wonder,
Hmm.
which is the more public persona life celebration. But then when you were pretty young, you did an essay which granted you the opportunity to meet Rosa Parks.
Yeah.
Now, you and I know about her, but I'm not really sure a lot of the listeners know who Rosa Parks is, which is the unfortunate part about the gap of history. But can you
Sure.
can you educate everybody as if they just don't know anything about her?
Rosa Parks is one of the most important people in American history, specifically the 20th century, for the reason that she was into activism, Black American activism. She was a secretary of the NAACP who was privy to conversations about how is it that blacks can advance themselves and retain their dignity while adhering to the laws. You don't want to be a vigilante. You don't want to cause your community more pain and stress, but you also need to evolve beyond the legal separation,
Mhm,
which
mhm,
it's legal, so but it's not moral. It's legal,
mhm,
but it's not moral.
mm.
That's why, Dr. Martin Luther King being a Christian pastor and all that, the message is really wrapped up in the morals and the ethics behind why these laws needed to be changed, not just because it's in the books and it's fair. No, we have to understand why. So Rosa Parks, long story short, um, refused to go to the back of the bus in a time period where buses were segregated and blacks were required to make place for whites and sit in the back of the bus.
Mhm.
Um, in this particular incident, she got off work and she got on the bus and she was required to sit down. She sat down. A white person got on the bus and then she was required to get up, but she refused. The bus driver saw the incident, tried to get her to get up, was unsuccessful, called the police. Now, what a lot of people don't know is two things. First, she didn't do it just because she was tired. She planned that she was going to not follow at some point, and she actually executed that day. Second thing is, that was the second time she had done that. And the
Wow,
second time she had done that with that bus driver.
the same
So
one.
the same one. So it was personal what was going on there. And he wanted to make an example of her, like, okay, I see what you're doing and I see what you're trying to do, and it's not going to work. So he tried to make an example of her, but she was prepared. The first time she was unprepared. Second time she was prepared. She went back and they they she was the center of the boycott, and what that really means is that she inspired African Americans to refrain from using public transportation and to walk or to carpool together. So people started walking miles and miles to work, taking more time than they needed to. But when you're discriminated against, they don't realize that one of your powers is economical, and they brought
I
the
was going to ask that.
yeah, they brought the economic system to its knees. That was the only way that the people paid attention. It wasn't the moral, it was the economy. Without hundreds of thousands of blacks, not just also in
Mhm,
that part of the country, but it was being inspired to happen in other places.
mhm,
People are
mhm,
starting to create their own, let's say, hospitals, your own hotels, your own restaurants, your own bus companies, your own this and that. You divert the economic energy away from one thing, you put it in another. While that empowers our system, that depowers another one. That's what started to cause the changes. That's when America started to change its laws and to understand that what it was doing was not just socially and politically incorrect, but it was
mhm.
morally and economically incorrect. In other words,
Wow.
you hit them in the pocket, then they start paying attention. You bring the
Mhm,
Bible around and you have Bible meetings about it. They weren't listening so well. So she,
mhm.
when I really understood that story, I flipped out. Um, as a little kid, I just flipped out. I didn't understand that the world was segregated. I was, let's see, I was born in 73, so this was 1985. You're talking about
Mhm.
just 20 years earlier. I had to walk through the back of a building. I had to be in a different part of the room. I had to sit in a different part of the public transportation because of my skin color. I didn't really experience that. And it hit me in the head that day. And I broke down.
Mhm.
I told my teacher I was going to write an essay, and I wrote like a 5-page essay that the school was so enthusiastic about that they contacted Rosa Parks, and then she was so enthusiastic that she actually came to the school to meet me.
Yeah, could you dive into that essay? What was the topic?
The topic is why Rosa Parks was my hero, why she's a hero, and why she's my was my hero.
Mhm. Okay,
And
so you were reading into her story first,
yeah,
and that's when you broke down the first time regarding this, or
they told us the story in class, and I couldn't grab it. I was like, I
yeah.
couldn't go with it. And see, the significant thing is, I was going to the school called Rosa Parks Elementary School.
Wow.
That's just a
Um,
name.
and is
But
that now that's Detroit, right?
in Detroit, that's where she
Okay.
was living.
Hmm.
So that's just a name until you get the story. You okay? What school you go to? Parks. Okay, that's just that. That's a name. But when they told us, okay, do you know who Rosa Parks is? No. Have you heard of Martin Luther King? Yes.
Hmm.
Okay, we're Rosa Parks, and they told us the story. And as they told us the story, I got heavier and heavier, and then I realized I she's my hero. I have to write about her, and I have to tell people about her, and I have to share her message because I think she's great, and that's how it started.
Hmm.
And at first, my teachers thought I plagiarized my paper, which I couldn't have done because I was in class. So they called me in the room, and then they said, "You plagiarized your paper. We want to know where you got the source from." And I said, "No, I didn't. I actually wrote it." And they said, "Okay, well, then write it again." So I wrote another paper
Wow.
about her. And then they came to me again, and they said, "Okay, you say you're not copying it, and we think this is extraordinary. So the only choice is to believe you and go forward with this." So they sent it out, and then she had a similar response, like, "Wow, I'm really inspired by how you wrote about me. So I need to come there." So they announced to the school, "Yeah, she's coming," and everything, and get dressed. She took pictures with us, and the Detroit public school system made a really big deal about it. They sent out
Mhm.
photographers, and somebody wrote an article about it, and they put us on the cover of the Detroit Public School System magazine, where I'm presenting Miss Rosa Parks with flowers. And that was one of the best days of my life till today.
Man, that's
Absolutely.
beautiful.
Yeah. She got her flowers while
Wow.
she was
I
alive.
I wanted to sort of I mean that's really special. I mean there's just so much connection there, and um everything was unexpected for you. You 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 didn't expect the magazine, you didn't expect to meet her. Now was there anything that she mentioned when you met her that maybe nobody would know about her, or did she perhaps impart a life lesson, or was there just something intriguing about her that you think everyone should know?
Yeah, I had built up a rebel, very vibrant, active fighter in my mind who was angry at the system and did something to change it. And that she was at that time, that she did what she did. But the person that showed up and was fawned on by everybody was was um, was a person of peace and serenity, calm and understanding, grace. And when I got in her presence, it's she has an extraordinarily
So
penetrating.
she knew how to balance the fierce vigor of standing for doing the right thing with also respecting human beings as human beings. That is that.
Those are the same things. Those are the same things. She simply wanted respect for who she was. But when she changed the system to get it, she didn't she was not an angry black woman, angry at everything that wanted to fight everything all the time. And when I met her, I understood that it wasn't about anger, what she went through. It was about, like I said earlier, morality. Um, Seeing that you are one with the person next to you. Spirituality is deeper than I think that if she had been at another in another time period, she probably would have did the same thing. I think that if she had been fighting for women's rights, she would have done the same thing. I think she was a person who just could not stand injustice. I don't think it was just because she was a black woman. I think because she was a woman, she saw enough injustice to stand up for herself. Because she was a black woman, she saw enough injustice. Because she was part of a
Mhm.
political organization, she needed people just to understand that we are the same. So when I met her, that's what I got from her. Um, yeah, your resolve, your center of focus. When it's clear what you want and who you are, you can go through things without anger. A knife isn't angry. It just cuts.
Hmm.
Knife is super sharp. It doesn't sit in the drawer angry and waiting to cut everybody. Its function is to cut. It stays sharp, and you pick it up and it cuts. And that's how she was. She rose in the moment that she needed to be who she was, and after that, she went back into the peace of knowing that she achieved what she was meant to do. She had achieved her life's mission, and you can see it in her. She
Mhm.
achieved it, and she was just radiant and at peace. Something you see in very few
You know,
people.
I want to really acknowledge some of the things you said, but I also don't want to put words in your mouth. Um, I feel that where you talk about being one with the person next to you, that you're talking about transcendence that has nothing to do with someone's external identity. And you sort of touched on this had nothing to do with her skin color. It just had to do with her. And that core principle is something I think that got lost between then and today, because I think so many people are reacting about um, obsessions about who we are on the outside instead of figuring out how we're one, having nothing to do with whatever it is that we identify with. Um, do you
You're
feel
right.
like that I'm resonating with where you're headed with that, or
Yeah, absolutely. We are not our skin. Our skin is an organ and it doesn't think, somebody told me. And it's true.
love it?
I'm not an activist because I'm black. I'm an activist because I'm tired of seeing injustices that can easily be avoided on every level of human condition. From me to others, from others to me. We make so many excuses why we have to be unjust and why things have to be all messed up. And honestly, it's excuses. Power systems get disrupted when you start giving other people who've been denied power. Then the ones in power, their systems get disrupted. So they want you to say your message only up to a point. We don't want our whole world to come crashing down. So I meet a lot of people who are activists who do it in silence because they don't want their own system to crash down, but they support change of the regime, but only to a point because they don't want you knocking on their door taking their percentage of the money that's yours. So it has to get beyond black, white, male, female politics. We want what's right for other sentient living beings. So it's a spiritual message, you know?
Yeah, I don't see a way for humanity to become one without shedding the external obsession.
Absolutely.
I just don't see it.
No. Living beings, I would even say, because as long as we're still eating animals, yeah, okay, humanity will become one, but then we're still eating animals, and we're going to become one to fight against aliens. We still make this system. We're going to fight against the supernatural or undernatural because there's a point to where we have to remove the us versus them thing. Black or white or human, non-human or human, animal. As long as we're persecuting other living beings for our benefit, we make excuses of why it's okay because we're more intelligent or we're more whatever the excuse is. We're going to stay in this deplorable condition um, of denying ourselves paradise. We see paradise and we can live on it. We know everything we need to do in order to do right, and we don't do it. And I'm talking about every person on every level. You know everything you need to do to get your stuff together, and we have free will to make our choices daily about which ones we're actually going to, you know, adhere to. So going back to that, I'm an activist not because I'm black. I'm an activist not because I'm a black man. No, no, I want suffering to end, and I would like justice.
Wow,
That's it.
man. Like I would love to someday have another chat to really deep dive into individuality and that whole concept. But for today, let's wrap up maybe about 10 more minutes
Sure.
of discussion. And I am so excited about everything you said. I almost don't want to take away from the spirit of all of this amazing. I think that if somebody just watched this broadcast from the beginning up till now, their entire life would be changed. Just literally, it would be altered. And so, on the one hand, I almost want to just kind of say, hey, good, we had an awesome time. But I think I can segue towards your album your very first album. I remember it begins with the letter U for three of the words, right? Uh, Yeah, so there were three.
Unknown,
That
unknown,
couldn't have been a mistake when you named that.
unknown, unspoken, and unseen.
All right, tell us what inspired that.
Uh, Very often, I feel like the only way for me to get ahead is to support myself. Uh, and that's kind of the story of my whole career. I write a suite before somebody calls me and says I need a suite. I don't do things for others. Music is my hobby. Number one, I do it because it's my therapy. It makes me feel good. So I wrote a ton of music and was already playing it. I had my own real book. At that point, I had written 60 to 80 songs. At that point already, at 24 years old, and
60 to
was already
80. Wow.
60 to 80, without a doubt. 60 to
That
80,
is that's a lot.
without a doubt. Um, I started in high school, and
And all of these you notated by hand
I
or
notated by hand. In
okay.
college, I got a calligraphy book because I realized my handwriting was crappy. So I bought a book on how to notate correctly the Hollywood way, and I simply assigned myself every recording that I like. I had about, let's say, 70 tapes in those days. Tapes. Every song I like on these 70 tapes, I'm going to write them down. So I produced my own like 200-page real book of my favorite songs. That was a practice to
Mhm.
get calligraphy together so I could start writing out my own songs with the best handwriting. This was before music notation software was affordable. And so I wrote all these songs and I just picked the best ones that I had at that time and wanted to record them. Of the unknown, unspoken, unseen refers to the fact that there is a source for all this that you never come across. You see the universe is like a flowering of something. The music is a flowering of something, but the essence of it, the seed of it, you don't actually see. It's always unknown. It's always unspoken. We can't speak about it. We never see it, but it is actually literally the heart of everything. So what is revealed, but the core of it, the essence of it, is unknown, unspoken, and unseen. So the record is about. We're talking about those things that are essential to existence, which you can't talk about. That's what the title means. And I have a long quote
Mhm.
on the record cover that says, "It's not music that separates us. Basically, it's our ideas about music that keeps us in different places. Music can be the thing that unites us and liberates us if we stop using it as a way to separate."
Okay, now I have a feeling that Stevie Wonder embodies that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so please tell me, tell everybody. Um, yeah, how did you meet Stevie Wonder? How did you get the invite to tour with him? If I'm correct, you went on tour with Stevie Wonder at some point. But
Part of the
yeah,
song traveling tour.
what's
How
that?
it happened? I was a part of the song traveling tour. Stevie basically doesn't tour. He tours once every 10, 15 years. It's not like he needs the money. He does it because he wants to, not because he has to. So I have two roads to Stevie, and I'll just lay out how it happened. Um, I got involved in a project when I was in college with Kamal Fareed, Q-Tip. And what he wanted to do was he wanted to produce a hip hop record with all jazz musicians. So he started with my good friend Jonathan Blake Jr., who was the drummer from the Charles Mingus Big Band every Monday night at that time at the Fez Bar. Q-Tip was going down there on Monday nights and seeing the band, meeting with Jonathan, and being like, "Hey, I think we could do something to go further." So I was in college with Jonathan. So Jonathan called my brother, Chris Sholar, Grammy award-winning guitarist, um, and myself and Josh David, the right now the lead bassist and lead singer for the Wailers, Bob Marley's group,
Mhm.
and Kurt Rosenwinkel. I called Gary Thomas, who performed with Herbie Hancock, Miles Davis, and we put together a wonderful Marlon Bonds on trumpet. Put together a wonderful group of guys, and one of the singers was Aisha Morris. I had seen Aisha around New York a few times and heard her. I didn't realize that it was Stevie's daughter. And so she was coming, hanging out. We were singing together, chilling, and her way is so sweet. She would come and hang out all the time and be so relaxed. And then she started recording with us, and I'm like, "Who is this girl?" Because we had selected an A team of musicians who were fierce studio guys, and then we get this soft, quiet lady who doesn't talk, sitting in the corner, who can really sing. So, she said, yeah, something, something, my dad's coming to town, blah, blah, blah. And then something, something. And then Q-Tip, yeah, let's go because he says his birthday is next week. And they're talking, talking. It's like everybody should know who he is. And I'm like, and then, it's Stevie. You're Stevie? Yeah, I'm Stevie's daughter. Okay. So we went to the birthday party next week. He's there. Hey, everybody. Yeah, wow. Okay. We're sitting in the room with Stevie Wonder, VIP. And he is the most chill guy. We hang out, we have conversations the whole night. This is going in a good direction. Later, we have such a great recording that we all the band are hanging out all the time. So she says, I want to put together a band. I want to do some stuff. We're like, cool. So her, myself, my brother Chris, the bassist Josh David, and my drummer Jamel Brown, who's on Kelvin Sholar Trio recordings, including my Stravinsky recording. We were going to Stevie's house up in New Jersey and rehearsing like every week. And the deal was this: okay, I need to get paid for rehearsals. And they said, okay, well, we're not going to pay, but what we're going to do is we're going to make sure you have the best time and you're going to have the best food. So they cooked huge meals for us every time. And we had like 7 hour long rehearsals and had great times. And Stevie would come and rehearse with us and tell jokes and talk on the speakerphone and be telling jokes the whole time until Will felt like it was not at all a musical thing. It was a family hang.
Fantastic.
He would tell stories about why he wrote songs while we were learning them. For example, he wrote "Can't Help It" for Michael Jackson. It's recorded on Off the Wall. And he said, "You know how I wrote that song? It's because I was listening to Dizzy Gillespie play A Night in Tunisia, and it's basically a night in Tunisia." And I said, "No." And he said, "Check it out." And then I heard it, mind blown. He says, yeah, actually, most of my songs I come up by listening to classic jazz songs and I'll get a lick and then I'll write the song on that. And he says, but sometimes it happens in the other direction. I was walking the other day and I was talking to Nora Jones and I realized that her song, I don't know why, she rewrote my song, Isn't She Lovely?
Wow.
And he said, now I'm singing Isn't She Lovely on her song. So now I want to sing her song. So he says, I want you guys to learn her song, Don't Know Why. And I want to sing Isn't She Lovely on it while you guys sing Don't Know Why. So little things
Incredible.
like that, it's totally incredible, totally incredible.
And that song is so amazing.
Oh,
Yeah,
she's
it's
amazing.
just it's just so amazing. Wow. And so yeah, that's something interesting about Stevie that I think that a lot of people just would have never even known. But actually, to be honest with you, there's not many people that take the time to tell stories. And especially, a well-known musician that actually literally teleported you guys into his universe by sharing all these stories. Now that's just esoteric.
That's the old school. All the hippest old school musicians I played with are storytellers, and they don't teach you through theory. They don't say the square root of this F sharp chord. They're like, you need to play this song like someone in love. I played this song when I met my wife. We were 14 and blah, blah, blah. And they tell you a story that gets you in the frame of mind. Um, when he told us that song about I Can't Help It, then he said, this is a good case in point. He wanted us to sing a line and he said, okay, think about the bass line. On the bass line of 19, it goes, he says, I want you to think about that. Why don't you sing that? Now he says, I want the other one to go, I can't help you if I wanted to. I can't help you if I can't find love. So we're singing, one person's doing Night in Tunisia, One person's doing "I Can't Help You," and then one person singing "Can't Help It If You Wanted To," the way Stevie did told Michael Jackson to sing it in the '70s. So I'm getting 1940s, 1970s, and in that time it was the end of the 1990s. I'm getting this lesson on how to connect music from the '40s through the '70s, through Aisha, who he wrote "Isn't She Lovely" about, sitting there singing with us, through the '90s and us being right there, the '70s, Steve. I'm seeing all these people: Duke Ellington, Dizzy Gillespie, Stevie Wonder. You know, it's huge. It's huge. But it's not a theoretical lesson. It's a social lesson. Teaching by putting you in the situation that makes you understand and realize how to be there. Now, flip side, they went on to do more music, Aisha and my brother Stevie, including some stuff for the Super Bowl. I had lost touch with them because I moved to Europe. Completely lost touch with Aisha.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
called Aisha once or twice and said I want to bring you to Europe to do some shows, which never
Mhm.
materialized. And then out of the blue, I'm cleaning my apartment, and out of the blue, I get a phone call. I pick up the phone. Hello. Yeah, man. I'm coming to Detroit in a few weeks, man. I need you to get together a group and to sing. I'm like, who is this? And see, and I got like 4 or 5 songs. Like maybe we could try, and goes right into singing, and then it dawns on me, oh, that's Stevie, and and he's trying to explain to me already the musical part of what he wants to do before even telling me what it is. And true to his word, it wasn't 2 weeks; it was like a month. He came to Berlin, um, contacted me through my agent, Juicy Margary in New York, and said, "I need you to put together 20 people to sing with me in a month. I'm going to sing you the 4 songs. That's the gig." Just like that. We're doing a world tour. Here it is. Just like that. And I was so intimidated that I said no.
Mhm.
I was so intimidated that I said no. First reason is he he says not as a piano player, as a singer. He knows me as a singer, not as a piano player.
Incredible. Yeah, I didn't even know that. So
Yeah,
so 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 he loved your voice, is what you're saying.
I was a singer first. My mother trained me as a singer. My parents are singers and players, so I was a singer first, and I don't have as much confidence in my voice as, let's say, that he does. I'll just say
Mhm,
it like
mhm,
that. I don't have the level of confidence because, to me, he's the ultimate singer. He can sing anything.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
I'm We're not even talking about leagues and levels. It's like he, and I'm a pianist. But he wanted what he wanted, and I said no, and I literally hung up the phone and tried to give the gig to somebody else
You know
who I
what's
thought was a
special
better
about
singer.
that though? What's really special is you were being authentic to you.
Yeah,
And if you weren't holding your own power, you would have agreed, but then something on the inside of you would have felt very empty when that whole thing occurred. And but it's just impressive. I love seeing stories where someone has the opportunity, to say yes to somebody that maybe like everybody else in the world would probably do that just because of who the person is, but you knew deep inside, no.
I said I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of your attention. I'm not worthy of your praise, and I am not fit to do the job. I think there is somebody who could do it better. So I literally hung up the phone and tried to give the gig to somebody else. When that person who I called, a very, very famous, well-known person, refused me and said a kind of snide remark about Mr. Wonder, I got offended, and then I said, "Oh no, I'm doing the gig, and I'm just going to rise to the occasion. No way you're going to refuse him and then make a remark." And then I realized just how stupid I was. I was being.
Well, actually, in my opinion, I think that you were going with your gut instinct, and you wanted to make sure that somebody really it's seeing, earlier you were talking about seeing your equality with your fellow person, and I see that as a time where you were allowing yourself to be connected to someone that you felt would have been the fit, but you also didn't know at that time that they were going to decline the whole thing. So
And the stupid part is when
yeah.
the man offers you directly something, that grace, you the stupidity is denying grace, is what I mean. Not that I'm a stupid person, but if God himself even comes down and offers you something gracefully, there's a point to where you have to even set aside your own self-doubt. And that's what that moment was about. No, you are not worthy. You are never worthy, actually. Yes, it is always grace. That is the state of being. Somebody calls you, somebody got $1 million and they thought, I want to hire Kelvin Sholar to be on this tour. That is the state of grace. There's nothing to be proud of. So when I say that word Stevie Wonder, I don't even mention it to a lot of people because automatically they start seeing me different. And that what they start trying to treat me, that's not actually where I'm at. I'm somewhere else with it. So I tend not to even mention it. I'm just like, yeah, and especially not the singing part. He played with Stevie Wonder. And then I don't even correct him. No, I actually sang, and he thinks I'm a singer. But whatever, things happen in life to bring you to the realization that no, you're not worthy. Anyway, with that realization, you will do a better job on the gig, thinking that way than you would if I thought, of course you come to me. Of course I'm the only choice that you have. Who else could be better? Of course I'm next in line. I was waiting for you to call me because that is just the wrong attitude to have.
So, what panned out with that?
Man, we showed up. We showed up. We rehearsed. As it got closer to the day, it got bigger and bigger. We showed up. That man showed up. He rehearsed. He told us we were the best singers that he had on the whole tour. He told us that. That man got us together and we had a 20-minute prayer session before we hit the stage. Eyes closed, hands holding prayer, silence. When we go to that space, that is the space. And in that moment that we're in the space and we're all holding hands, I realized one of the things I had come here to do, that was that moment. One of the things I came here to do in this life, I had achieved it in that moment that I was holding his hand and I was deep in prayer with him before we even played music. He didn't even hear us sing. And he trusted that I could bring this. And we got there. And when we got on stage and we did the thing, and afterwards he shook every single person's hand for an hour long. Every single person in my crew, not the audience, not journalists. Every single person's hand took pictures, asked their names. It was one of the best days of my life, and it makes me so humble. Even to the day when I think about it, I get more humbled, even more down to earth. Because again, I realize no, it's not because I'm so great. It was grace. It is grace.
I feel like that I'm receiving a major lesson just with you saying this. Like, even when you're at the top, treat everybody on your team with the utmost respect. And that is just gonna be something I hope that I really absorb, right? For any other situation I might be in where there's a team or whatever. So, man, like I said earlier, I mean, geez, this is like punch number 2 for impact. Wow. Well, I wanted to get into your music curriculum and how, if you could tell everybody how everything came together with your life to culminate in what is happening today with your, I took a look at it. I snuck peeked the whole thing. It's like you've got a full university's worth of knowledge just waiting for someone to dive in. So, man, in your own words, what is it?
What it is a way to focus on what music education is and how to get beyond the limitations that we've had in music education so far. My curriculum at this point is dealing with music education from the perspective of cognition, the cognitive side. What does cognitive mean? If I just use the most simple way to do it, going back to Benjamin Bloom and his 1950s educational theory, I'm thinking of cognitive in simply in terms of recall. Um, when you learn music, you got to learn what the words mean. What does frequency mean? What does amplitude mean or loudness? What does pitch mean? You got to recall that that word is a musical term, and you got to recall the definition. That's basically what my school is working on, coming from the cognition side. So I have 6 levels of cognition then. The first level being appreciation, which basically deals with the recall of elements and their definitions. The second level goes into apprehension. When you know musical elements, how is it that you relate them to musical writing? Because on one hand, we hear all this stuff, but on another hand, a composer must write on a score the sounds he's hearing. So on the second level, you're making a connection between the word the terms that you've heard, and you're going to connect that to what that term means in the world of musical notation, because we're writing down music. Um, the third level is application, because we actually apply what we learn in music through writing and teaching. So I get into like to write a quarter note, the stave on the fourth stave, the line has to be 3/4 of an inch long. The note head has to be approximately filling the spaces. So I get technical on the third level. On the fourth level, we get into analysis. How is it that you take pieces of music and break them down into their elements? Not just the physical elements, but the numerical elements. Since there are 12 notes, you can make 12 numbers. And instead of thinking in terms of notes, then you're just thinking in terms of base 12 mathematics. So we start analyzing things, translating them from the physical sound waves into numbers or ideas. And then on the last level, evaluation. I do something that's not being taught in any of the music schools at this point, which is the introduction of information theory. The word information itself, what does it mean? Information theory being started by Claude Shannon, how electronic devices were used to start the whole sampling revolution. And they started that with electronic waves. 0 means negative amplitude, 1 means positive amplitude. When you describe a wave just using the 2 numbers, then you can describe 4 different waveforms in 2 parts, or 16 different waveforms in 4 parts. So using that, you can actually measure how much information is in a piece of music. What does that mean? When I listen to 20th century music, when they use all 12 notes equally, has the highest bit of information because you can't predict the patterns. When I do Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb, that's on the opposite end. Because of these patterns, I can predict. These patterns make it, on information terms, there's a lot less information there in the pattern stuff, because I can predict it. There's a lot more information in 12 tone, because it's going I can't predict that pattern. Much more information. So instead of taking music class the way it is in a normal university, which is a history class, no more, no less. Music class in university is a history class, no more, no less. I just want to repeat that and make that known. They just start with the earliest parts of history, and then they go down in history and they try to say how it's all theoretically sound and all that. Basically, the music came first and they make the theory second. I'm not dealing with history. I'm going with cognitive basis. All the terms, all the definitions, what you're supposed to do in order to be able to recall and know music. So
So you're making sure they're actually learning concepts instead of just like seeing them as a distant thing. Is that what I'm correctly assessing?
You're correctly assessing that. And what makes it different is most of the students in music school are coming there to learn an instrument, voice, piano, bass. You don't have to be a musician. You don't have to be talented to learn about music and to learn to think about music. For example, all the journalists, all the critics, all the label owners, all the lawyers, all the club owners, they're all deeply involved in music and actually have a very big say on our future. And the more they know about what we actually do, helps make our future brighter. That's kind of like what Rosa Parks is about, the morality of it. don't think about who the people are. It's not about the term music and the musicians. It's actually how do we get to a certain point to where you see that we're all equal. The moral part. You could be my lawyer, you could be my agent, you could be the club owner, but we're all going for the same thing, the love of music. That's why we're all here. So when we focus on the love of music, regardless of the piano or the bass or the voice, we're all in the room. So I'm trying to get us all in the room in this course. The engineers who don't know if I'm playing in the key of C or F sharp, it doesn't matter to an engineer. He loves music, he thinks of frequencies. In this course, we're all sitting there together. Old music teachers, you know, new music teachers, students, engineers, lawyers, anybody who's interested in music, you turn your mind on with my course.
I was intrigued when you were telling me the other day that music reporters were finding a magnetic interest in this, just because I don't recall the exact reason, but tell us more about that. That's super
My
interesting.
main clients are music journalists and music teachers. Music journalists because they realize that a lot of the words that we use when we were describing the music, they're repeating them, but they don't know what they mean. So I give them a crash course into understanding how these words are used without them having to know how to play an instrument or know the history of music. It's like, yeah, when I'm talking about frequencies, I'm talking about just basically the song is high or low. Oh, was that really all you meant? Yeah. So, and music teachers, yeah, I've been teaching school, I've been teaching for 20 years music, and I have no idea what you even mean by information. I have no information what you mean by synthesis. I skipped synthesis. Synthesis is like composition. You take elements in synthesis and then you put them together in a new way. A lot of my music teachers say, you know, I've only been taught to listen to the music of Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, John Coltrane. I have no idea how to write a song. I have no confidence that I can. Can you give me the tools to do that? Absolutely. I could teach your 5-year-old, and I've been teaching 5-year-olds to write their own songs. I had an 8-year-old who wrote a song and she brought it to me, and I told her parents, you should take her out of school and put her in a special program because she's already on a genius level of. And then a year later, they came and said, yeah, we had a cognitive assessment. She's a genius level. Well, why didn't any of our teachers say that to me before? I said, maybe because they're teaching her to learn facts and not unleashing her creative aspect, you know? Learning the facts of when Duke Ellington wrote Black and Tan Fantasy might not help you be the best improviser. You know, understanding what color Madonna's panties were might not help you understand the best way to become a dancer or organ. You know what I mean? There are certain things about the thing that we do that's irrelevant to actually the creativity part, you know? So I feel like my course will help people get to the essence of it without confusing it with being a master of an instrument.
Well, it seems to me that music producers and songwriters that are just getting started with writing the songs, but feel like they're hitting the brick wall, would really benefit from going into your course, because you're going to really stretch their imagination and get them to make connections between different concepts that they otherwise might not get if they're just randomly browsing YouTube videos or trying to Google search and just reading words on a page somewhere from a site. Now speaking of that, you have a free section with over 100 videos.
120 free videos that are directly linked to the book that I wrote. I wrote an 818-page book that is in 6 chapters, one for each module, and each module has 20 lessons. So that's 120 lessons in the book. I give all that information away for free. I'm not charging for the information. What I'm charging for is personal guidance to get on a video chat or sit next to you on the piano and help you understand what these things mean.
With your approach, do you want them to go through all of those free videos first, or is there a way you incorporate it where it doesn't matter where they're at in those videos, they can still do the one-on-one with you? What's your preferred approach?
Preferred is take as much advantage of the free material as you can and come up against these brick walls of knowledge that you don't have. Okay, a friend of mine is a very famous jazz pianist who you know. I gave him my book and he called me the next day and said, I have no idea what a mother chord is or a mother scale. I never heard that before in my life. I'm gonna get you on Zoom for like an hour to explain to me what that is and how I can use it. Now, this guy is on my level of playing. So it's not like, oh, he's a student. No, no, no. He's on my level and above in some areas. There's just simply some knowledge that I can help him guide. So I gave him the book and the link to the videos. Man, that's not my information. It's not my knowledge. It's our knowledge. But what I'm charging for is my time. My time is
Hmm.
what's valuable. So yeah,
Absolutely.
so I can sit with you and hold your hand, and that's worth $1 a minute, which is what I charge.
Hmm.
It's worth $1 a minute. 60 minutes is $60. It's worth that for an expert to sit there and hold your hand when you have 120 free videos and 880 pages there in your
Absolutely.
hand. So I'm changing the paradigm. I'm not saying that you have to pay in order to get my knowledge. That knowledge is
Mm.
ours. It's our right. It's a human right to have it. You can have it. All I'm charging for is for me to use my time sitting next to you to bring you to to guide you to the place where you
Yeah.
don't have the knowledge. That's it. I don't want
Mhm.
to put myself in the way of the information.
Yeah, so basically they can go through the whole video course and take notes about the things that they just aren't making the connections for, book lessons with you, and you'll clarify those specific points and probably sneak in some other things.
Yeah, some think of it as booking lessons, and others, since they're in modules, you could take a module. Like some guys, like, hey, I don't need a refresher on how to write music. I'm Hans Zimmer. What I don't understand is information theory. So I just want to take the sixth course. Maybe I'll never even use that in my life. I just want to know what the hell that is. Another student, though, she's a music teacher at Berkeley. She's like, look, I want all six modules. I need a refresher. Nobody's challenging me. I don't do homework. I give homework. I don't get to talk to people in other languages. I'm sitting here in my bubble all day teaching kids and I don't get taught. I need to get lifted up myself. So I'm going to take the course just to get a refresher. Some things I know, okay, I know. Most of the stuff I don't know, you teach me, and I'm going to go every week in step until I get through those things, and I want a report card at the end. Again, it's not about her job. She's got her job. She's never going to use this composed stuff. She just wants to know. She wants to be challenged on her own level, you know?
So I wanted to touch on the article that you recently wrote on your site, which back in the year 2011, you sent me a paper that contained the same info and synchronicitously. Was it like, I think 2 weeks ago that we got back in touch?
Yep.
Um, and you informed me at that time that you had put the article on your blog. So it was just kind of a real neat connection
Yeah,
taking place.
you inspired me.
Please share what that's all about and why it's important for people to sort of think about it.
When you guys approached me about an international piano network, I responded and said, I think it's a great idea because learning is too centralized. At that point, I had been part of clubs that were based in a place, a New York piano group. I'm part of a Detroit piano group. I'm part of a Berlin piano group. These are all centralized to those locations. But you were talking about having an online group, international, and talking with people who are in different time zones and sharing ideas across genres too. So that was like, oh, well, that's a decentralized idea. I think that's where things are going. And let me just write down what my ideas about that would be. So I wrote
Mhm.
those ideas down, and I recall like about 3 or 4 weeks later, I sent them to you guys, and we conversed about it. Fast forward years later, when the pandemic happened, I was in the middle of a tour in America, and all my work got canceled. So I sat there, and then all of a sudden, I saw that people started coming up with Zoom teaching and concerts, and I said, "Man, this is what we were talking about in 2011." Now actually the world has caught up to the need that we saw then, and now they need guidance. So I pulled that paper out, I read it again, and I was just completely like, we saw it then. So
Yeah.
I edited it lightly and put that exact paper back online, and then I got all this flux. Oh man, there's no way they're going to be doing remote learning in schools. There's no way, blah blah blah. And this was just last February. Oh, there's no way that people are going to stop trying to show up to classes. They're not going to put their curriculum online. And today it's exactly what we thought. Decentralized education.
Well, as this year sums up, I'm going to be contemplating ways to resurrect that whole network idea that,
Oh, really?
but not confined to piano.
Good idea.
More of the whole umbrella of music professionals, and a very principled approach that's in line with everything we've been talking about. Because I want to draw musicians together that care about individuality, that care about the history of music, where people that have been enslaved use music to set themselves free and
Absolutely.
be pioneers for the rest of humanity, and how
Absolutely.
today we can use music to set ourselves free, to keep ourselves free, and to keep the tyrants that want to oppress and strip all sense of heart from us, completely out of us. And you can't kill music. You cannot kill music. The whole world can get enslaved by a dictator, and it won't. It's just not going to work, because we're free. It's just, you can't put a lid on it.
Yeah, that network, man, that idea, I believe is 100% correct, and I am just, you can count on me to be a part. That is for sure. I love that idea. I love that
Well,
idea.
I'm looking forward to seeing how the stream of consciousness comes through, and how more just like you are going to be the waymakers. And with that said, I want to express my gratitude
Oh,
for.
me too, man. So much. You know, I don't often get a chance to share with people who I have a history with and who I like. And you know, us talking so nice. And this is like the third or fourth conversation we've had lately, and it's just opening up and flowering. And feel like we have so much in common. And I feel like so many people watching this need to hear this, what we're sharing at this moment. It's not just going on between us. It's a global awareness, a global waking up, and a global pulling together. This is part of that. So I thank you. I thank you, man. I'm very thankful that you present me to your network, that you kept track of me all these years, and that you keep helping me. So I thank you as much as you thank me, my friend.
Well, this is only the beginning.
Oh yeah.
And with that said, good mojo to you.
Hey, same to you, man. God bless.
Peace.
Peace.